This video will go over the inputting for company information in the setup screens. Company information has just basic information about your company, company name, street address, city, state, zip, phone number, fax, email, federal and state tax IDs, and the fiscal period, the month of the calendar year when your fiscal period begins, and the country that you live in. The information here is input. You can put either a DBA name or the actual company name. The information here will print out on your invoice headers, your work order headers, your purchase order headers. So you want to set this the way that you want it to appear. There is the ability to use alternate headers that are located in the locations and sales tax setup. That will be discussed in another video. The email address that you have down here is an important feature if you've purchased the QReporter add-on software. QReporter uses this email address as the default from email address when delivering emails out of the QReporter program. It is recommended that you set up individual employees' email addresses. The QReporter program will use those for the employee who is logged in at the time. If there is no email address, it will default to this address here. Federal and state tax ID numbers are only used when printing W-2s or 1099s. QFloors doesn't really use those or print those on any reports that can be created out of QFloors. Again, picking the month that your financial period or your fiscal period begins will allow QFloors to create accurate financial reports and track retained earnings from year to year correctly. Finally, down here is your country information. California is not a separate country, but they do have different laws regarding how the invoice has to be calculated than any other state in the United States. They have an additional it's a recycling recovery fee that they have to charge when they sell carpet, and selecting California causes that feature to work correctly. Canada has different tax situations using both a federal or government tax, GST, along with provincial taxes, PST. So to select and to have QFloors create and tax invoices correctly, you must select the correct country. Again, once you've finished inputting all this information, you'll click the Save button, close this window, and that ends entering the company information. This video will discuss the labor types in the setup and give you information on how to input here. On the invoice page, you choose labor down here in this type field, and the types of labor that you can choose are created and input into this labor item setup. We have a basic set of examples here as labor types that you can work with. To input any of this information, you simply click on the line where you want to work, input your name, input the units of how you want to sell it, and price it to your customers. Each linear feet, square feet, or square yards, none isn't generally used. You put in the retail price for this labor type per square foot, and here in the L0 column you put in the cost of this labor type. So you can see we have a set of items that are already set up. These are just for you to use as examples, so you can see how to input the information here and what type of information to put in here. We recommend that when you're going through to set up your labor types, that you may want to print this out so that you can work from a sheet of your own of what labor types you have and need to use, and go ahead and mark that printed information as far as what labor types you want to set up, and make adjustments to make sure that you don't duplicate items here in this list. To export this information or to print it, you don't have a print button here, so you have to export it, and the export is going to be put into a CSV, a comma separated value file. You can open that file with a spreadsheet such as Excel, and then all of the information of the separate columns will be put into individual columns for you. Once you're ready to start inputting, naming labor types is kind of an important thing. You can see that there's kind of a jumble going on in here. We have carpet kind of spread around a little bit. That is not important in the input here, although it does help if you are inputting carpets and go through all your carpets and vinyl and tile and so forth. It can help you make sure that you don't skip anything. If you happen to skip something, rather than coming back and changing a lot of different lines, you just move down to a lower blank line and input what you need. On the invoice, when you actually are inputting the labor types, they will be alphabetically sorted within that labor type, no matter how they were input in this window. Additional insights that I would give you, naming this carpet plush here, it defines what type of labor you're doing, and that's really good so that a salesperson putting in this information can start typing in carpet, and he will see a list of your different carpet labors that are available. But you might want to do some additional abbreviation. In order for him to pick a specific labor type, he would have to input the whole word carpet, a space, a dash, another space, and a P for plush to get to this one. A little different abbreviation might be simply to start the labor name with a C for carpet, then add the words plush carpet after that. And so your salesperson will just type a C, get to your carpets, and then could immediately start typing in the specific carpet labor he wanted. A V for vinyl, T for tile, L for laminate, some basic things that you might want to do in here. Again, it is up to you on how you want to input this information. When you're inputting it, you can go ahead and say, if I wanted to change this one, I could take out the carpet here, delete key, and then after that I can add the word, so your customer will know what type of installation that actually is. It won't just say C plush to them. If you're installing by the square feet, you go ahead and put in the price that you quote your customer here, standard, and then in the L0 you put in what you expect to pay your installer. You'll notice that we have some additional L numbers, L1, 2, 3, and 4. These are for additional costs that you might use. In some instances, you might have a more experienced installer and want to pay them a larger amount, so you can go ahead and put in L1 as that higher amount. Or you might have a less experienced and maybe put that in L2 and put a lower price of what you expect to pay your installer. But there are 4 different levels that you can use. These levels are able to be assigned to specific installers in the employee subscreen. If I go ahead and save this and get out of this window, over in my employee subscreen for an installer, there is a level number there. By default, they start at L0, but you can select whichever level you want to assign for them. There are 75 labor types available already for you to use here, and you just go down the list and just pick out the different lines and input the information. There is, in line 14, it says no labor. QFloors will not allow you to make a change to that particular line. It uses that for use tax states. In calculating use tax, it manually or it automatically uses this no labor to keep track of whether an invoice is a use tax or a sales tax situation. There's a new button up here, so if you need more lines than the 75, you start clicking the new button and additional lines will appear at the top of this list, and you fill them in how you need it. You can save at the end of the input, or you can save as you go along at any time during it. It will save that information to the database, and at the end, when you're done, you can either click the close button or click the X to end the input. This video will give you some information on how to input information into the setups and how that information is used by QFloors. The setups contain required data for QFloors to execute properly. With the exception of the product catalog, the changes in these setup screens change infrequently. One of the things that you must remember when inputting data in QFloors is that you must use the tab or enter key in any of the data fields that you encounter, or the information that you're trying to put there will not be saved or accepted. In the setup screens, the enter key is really the only button that works 100% of the time, so remember to use the enter key when inputting data. The information in the setup screens will download to the individual workstations every time QFloors is started. So in order to update information in the setups at each individual workstation, it's required that you exit all the way out of QFloors, either hitting the X here or going to File and Exit, and then restart QFloors, and that will cause the new information that's been input by someone else in the database to be downloaded to the workstation. In all of the setup screens, you'll find that there will be new buttons, or there will be there are save and close buttons. In order to input and create some new things, you may have to use this new button. Other times you can just access a blank area or a blank line and go ahead and use and update the information that should be in that blank line. You have a save button whenever any information has been input. The save button will light up with the red color, and use that to save the information. And then there will be a close button, or you can go ahead and use the X to close the window.